All right, today we are diving into a story that is just mind-blowing. We're talking about wealth that's almost impossible to imagine, a powerhouse empire that most of us have never even heard of, and honestly, a piece of history that might just flip the script on how you see the world. So let me ask you a question. Who's the richest person who has ever lived? Go on, think about it. I bet a name, maybe a couple of names, just popped into your head, right? You're probably thinking of the tech billionaires we see in the news every day, right? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or hey, maybe you're a history buff and you went for someone like John D. Rockefeller. All totally reasonable guesses. But they're not just wrong, they're not even in the same ballpark. No, seriously. The person we're about to talk about, their wealth makes today's billionaires look like they're just playing with pocket change. It's a completely different level of rich. It's almost indescribable. The answer is Mansa Musa. He was an African emperor from the 14th century, and his wealth was so vast, so utterly staggering, that economists today literally struggle to even calculate it. It's what they call incomprehensibly rich. Okay, so Mansa Musa, who was this guy, and how in the world did he get so unbelievably wealthy? Well, it all starts with an empire, a massive West African empire that just happened to be sitting on a gold mine, literally. So Mansa isn't just his first name. It's a title. It means emperor or king of kings. And Mansa Musa ruled the Mali Empire right at its absolute zenith, from around 1312 to 1337. He was the guy in charge when things were at their very best. Now, to get a sense of just how big of a deal this was, think about the Roman Empire, right? That's kind of our go-to for ancient superpowers. Well, the Mali Empire was huge, a real powerhouse. And more importantly, it controlled the trade routes for the two hottest commodities back then: salt, which was like the oil of its day, and gold, lots and lots of gold. And we're talking about a massive chunk of land. His empire stretched across a huge part of West Africa. Think modern-day Senegal, Mali, Guinea. It was enormous. This wasn't some minor kingdom. It was a genuine global superpower. So what does that kind of power translate to in dollars and cents? Well, it's pretty much impossible to nail down an exact number, but historians have tried. Their best guess? His fortune would be worth, get this, over $400 billion today. Let that sink in. That doesn't just make him the richest person ever. It makes him the richest by an absolutely staggering margin. But here's the thing about being that rich. What's the point if nobody knows about it? Well, Mansa Musa was about to put his empire and his wealth on the world map. And he did it by taking what has to be the most epic road trip in human history. So in 1324, Mansa Musa, who was a devout Muslim, set off on the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. But this wasn't your average spiritual journey. Oh no. On his way, he stopped in Cairo, and he gave away so much gold, just handed it out, that he completely crashed the local economy. He caused runaway inflation that lasted for more than 10 years. Can you imagine that? And just try to picture this scene. This wasn't just him and a few buddies. He brought a caravan of 60,000 people with him. 60,000. That is basically a medium-sized city on the move, marching right across the Sahara Desert. So what does a moving city of 60,000 people even look like? Well, you've got 12,000 of his own personal attendants. You've got his entire royal court, thousands of soldiers for protection, heralds decked out in silk, and of course the camels. More than 80 camels, and trust me, they weren't just carrying watering tents. Each and every camel was carrying up to 300 pounds of solid gold. Just do the math on that for a second. This wasn't just a trip. This was a statement. This was Mansa Musa showing the entire world the incredible, jaw-dropping power of the Mali Empire. But here's what's really fascinating. The journey wasn't just a giant spending spree. It was actually a brilliant investment in his empire's future. The people he met, the scholars and architects he brought back with him, they were about to change everything and build a true golden age. When he got back home, he kicked off this massive building and education boom. He recruited the best minds from across the Islamic world. Suddenly, you have these incredible mosques, libraries, and universities popping up. He essentially turned the city of Timbuktu into one of the world's most important centers for learning and culture, a true intellectual hub. Which brings us to the big, giant question at the heart of all of this. We've got the richest man in history
ruling an empire bigger than Rome, building a legendary city of knowledge. So why? Why have most of us never heard of him?
I mean, really think about it. If this empire was so incredibly rich and powerful, how is it possible that it's basically a ghost in most Western history books? Why is this story missing? Look at what we typically learn about the 14th century. We hear all about the Hundred Years' War and the Black Death in Europe, right? Important stuff, for sure. But at the exact same time, you have the rise of Timbuktu and this powerful centralized empire that controlled a huge chunk of the world's gold. And yet, crickets. And this is the heart of the matter. The story of Mansa Musa isn't some tiny footnote. It should be a main chapter in the story of the 14th century. The fact that it's so often left out, well, it tells you a lot about how history gets written and who gets to write it. So, look, learning about Mansa Musa is amazing, but it's about more than just one king. It forces us to ask a really important question. If a story this huge, this significant, could be pushed to the margins, what else don't we know? What other incredible histories and amazing legacies have been completely forgotten? Makes you wonder, doesn't it?